Do you let me have a slurp?
Big old slurp. When we first met, you were an online coach, you had double-digit clients, and you didn't really talk about it. You just worked really hard in this dungeon gym.
Yeah.
Now, most people know you for films, but given my first intro to you was as a coach, what drew you to coaching?
I said this to you before, I think one of the main things for me was COVID. Like, that was inevitable, and it's like, not to be cliche, but it's like, when I was, prior to COVID, what was it, like, first lockdown was like March 2020, was it March 2020? Yeah. Prior to that, it was a case of me working in marketing, but having an interest in fitness and gym at that time, and being really, really involved in it for my own gain. And I think I got made redundant. I'd already qualified as a personal trainer a couple of years back, and then just kind of had no choice but to find something. And I had previously done the whole spiel of like giving free plans to friends and whatever. It was more of a case of then, it was like, let me try and, now I've got COVID and all this time, which I put something into it. And I go, again, it kind of sounds cliche, but it wasn't for money. And, you know, as everyone knows in coaching, there's like no money at the start anyway. Like, it's something that's a really progressive process. So it was just a case of, COVID hit and I had nothing else going for me at that time. You know, I was at home all the time, made redundant from my previous role in marketing, in advertising. So it was a case of just doing that, and then having a passion for fitness and wanted to like apply it to that. I think was the main thing. Pretty standard. I think, you know, you have an interest in German. We've seen this time and time again. You know, if you don't have a passion for German helping people to begin with, it's not really going to go well for you in the long run.
What do you think people get wrong about online coaching?
As in a perception from an outsider or someone who does it themselves?
I think we could ask that from both perspectives. So obviously I've gone to be a coach and I was inspired by you in many ways. And I think I looked to you almost as a mentor and worked with your original mentor. And that definitely gave me the confidence towards the end of 2022 to go fully online and to start building a business. I don't think I had any conception of what it meant to be an online coach until I spoke with you. But when I was, say, messaging people, trying to drum up interest on Instagram, and that's a common tactic.
Yeah.
And it used to be something that you could do quite organically and really well, I think.
For sure.
I saw that you're into training. You know, what are your fitness goals? And you start a conversation and then hopefully you have a call at the end of it. And I would say 2.5 years on from that, it's a very different scene.
Absolutely.
So I didn't really have an understanding of what it meant to be a coach until I became a coach. And now I would say that what people get wrong about online coaching from a coaching perspective is that it's all about the money. I think actually it's still got to be about the conversations. It's got to be about being a real person for real people who are really struggling sometimes.
I think now even more than ever, I think we're in a world where it's like, as you know, like it's so saturated. Everyone wants to be an online coach. And I think whether or not they get into it for the right reasons, I often think it's not, because I think the coaches you see online now, we've almost merged fitness coaching with financial coaching and giving this kind of vibe of freedom. I think, you know, most online coaches, for tax purposes mainly, will move to places like Dubai, for example, and kind of live this life of perceived luxury. And I think that kind of has gone hand in hand. So people have seen that and thought, this comes from a mental thing as well, because every coach has a mentor now, and I do think they're well worth it. And obviously I work this one myself. And I think what it comes down to is because mentors will report on coaches' success via monetary figures. They go, so-and-so is 7K a month, and that's important for them to do because that's their marketing. That gives people who aren't a coach the perception of, okay, I can, you know, work at home full time and earn 10K a month, and it's easy. When in reality, it's very hard to do so. It's very hard to get. Most coaches don't even touch that mark, and it's very hard, and it's not impossible, but it's something that takes a long time to build. And I think a lot of people get wrong from the outside is they're thinking it's going to be a case of almost an ease and a way out of their job, even if they don't have the passion for it, because they want that lifestyle they've seen Joe Blogg have on the beaches in Marbella or whatever, you know, the usual shine. I think people aren't prepared for what they have to do outside of just the coaching, because I think it either comes from two places. Sometimes people just have a real passion for coaching and get people to lose weight or gain muscle, which is great, or people have a passion for marketing. And I almost think that line doesn't merge sometimes, and people will either be great at coaching but not be able to market themselves, or great at marketing but they'll get clients on and they'll have a retention rate average of like 6 weeks because no client wants to stay with them because they're not a good coach. So I think it kind of is one of those things where I think the main thing people get wrong is just how hard it is to stand out, and how you need to be on your A game in both marketing and coaching. Whereas I think, like you said, I think a couple of years ago, when especially COVID, you could kind of be great at either one. Now it's become a place where it's really just about business tactics to lead the way, and then the coaching will come later, which is bad and shouldn't be the case, but I think it is for a lot of people. Does that make sense?
I think it does. It is the online element of it feels 60, 70, 80% of it, in the sense of, do you see me online? Therefore, do you rate me? Do you think that I will be a coach because I am online?
How often are you seeing my face? All the time.
Yeah. Am I post sponsored? Therefore, am I good? If you know what I mean. There's this almost correlate.
How many followers do I have?
Followers, advertising, how often am I seeing you in my feed, rather than will you help me get to where I want to be?
There's always and this isn't just the coaching, this is just the fickle mindset of any business, but there is now, and everyone knows this, there is a very fickle role that the number of followers someone has plays in terms of their authority. People will see someone with 100k and someone else with 1k, the person with 1k offers a far better service, actually has better results in the long term, but because it's not getting many eyes, because they don't have that number, their return is just, it's nowhere near.
And you've seen this, haven't you, that people could have 100,000 followers and maybe only have 2 or 3 clients.
For sure, it goes both ways. And I think the people with 100,000 as well, it's almost people who I've worked with in the past, it's maybe more of an expectation for them that people come to them. I think that's another thing people get wrong about coaching now, just to sidestep, is people aren't going to come to you at the start. Unless they're friends or mutuals or whatever. I mean, you'll get odd people. Like I got odd people, but I think I started at the right time. But people will, in this day and age, there's so many coaches, when you're at the start, you won't be approached initially. You won't. You have to do that kind of digging yourself often, which kind of is a bit shit, but also it's just how it is now. And I think people, if they have 100k for every lot of followers, and I at least remember working with people like this as well, because they have followers, they automatically think, I've got this following. People, if I advertise coaching, people will come to me. When they don't. So you see it the other way, like you said, you see people with 200,000 followers who struggle to get clients. So it goes kind of both ways, doesn't it?
What do you think people who maybe are interested in getting fitter, maybe do have body goals, get wrong then about coaches? So we've said maybe the misconception from a business standpoint and from a practitioner standpoint, but what about the person who buys?
I think it depends. I think a typical one that I used to get when I was a coach, so I coached everything to do with body composition, but I think my specialty per se was fat loss. That was kind of my one I worked with most in terms of people's goals. I think when it comes to things like fat loss, it's the speed in which it's going to happen. And again, I think this is a industry thing where, I think this has actually got better recently, but it has been a thing in the past where it's like, look how much my client lost in 12 weeks. And it's clients not having the ability to separate their own goals into, no one, like I could lose 15 kg in 10 weeks and be fine, whereas you might lose 4 kg in 4 months. Everyone's different and everyone has different goals. And I think people go into coaching a lot and want to lose weight and think it's just going to be not necessarily an overnight thing, but people think that they want results instantly. And when that doesn't come around, I think people can get quite impatient. And I almost think that's a coach's job to speak them through it. And if they're not, then they're partially to blame as well. But you will just get the odd person who, if they don't get results right there and then, they switch off. I think that's like kind of the main thing I used to face anyway. And I'm sure you did as well with clients and stuff.
For sure. It probably won't surprise you to know that a lad who's recently made redundant from his London job asked me how I got into coaching, and then has put his services out and is trying to build up a presence as an online coach. I was made redundant from my digital marketing job and got into online coaching.
Everyone does. It's like the typical thing.
That seems to be like the life event, the cataclysm.
And it's always the same sort of role.
Yeah.
Marketing space, advertising space, sales, which does help going into it because you have almost that sales ability-ish. Do you know what I mean? You've got that experience, but it does seem to be the catalyst for sure.
Yeah. And then from that you and I both ended up with fat loss clients. But I think when you get into it, yes, you help people to lose weight. Yes, maybe they will look leaner. I learned a lot from you, how to be a coach, but also what coaching would be like. You showed me how to eat in a better way.
There's never going to be a one-size-fits-all approach. You have to adjust things. And if it means someone's results aren't going to be as fast as the next person, that's fine. As long as they're, and again, it's cliche to say, but as long as they're enjoying it. Because if not, it's just, you just won't get results. Like, I can't tell you, and you all know coaches as well, I'm sure, who are like this, who are online predominantly, and they've got just a plethora of transformations of, 12 weeks for summer or a holiday, whatever. And the person always just rebounds so badly and they go back to them again. It's this whole cycle. So it's almost helping people to realize that if you're a coach who wants to help, you're not helping them for just 12 weeks, which is also fine. Like I'm not, dieting for holidays is something we all do, but it's also that helping them for life and just have that more consistency and have that rhythm so they can feel better day to day rather than just this week where they're away. I think that's what people get wrong as well.
For sure.
Yeah. It's helping people in the little things, not just here's the calories, eat that.
Yeah. Some of, I think, my most successful clients have been successful in their blocks with me, but I would say have been truly successful in keeping it going after the fact.
For sure.
And there were a couple of women that I worked with last year who were still texting me to say, oh, I'm off to the pub today, but all my family are walking to it with me. You know, it's that simple change of we're not driving to the pub and spending the afternoon sinking pints. We're spending an hour walking, and then, all right, I might have a pint with my Sunday roast, but it's social fitness, it's bringing family into it, it's turning it into an active afternoon, something that they look forward to, that fits in with their goals, their plans. They still look and feel how they want to, but they get to do it with their family. They're not excluding anything.
One of my main gripes of fitness, and this has kind of gone downhill in recent years, but when I was coaching especially, it was so prevalent, was the whole 10K steps thing. It really like irritates me, because I like the ways in which you can get a client to be less sedentary and just, I don't know, take some stairs instead of an elevator, just small things. But the 10K thing and putting pressure on people to achieve that is so unrealistic. It's so unrealistic, and it annoys me when people preach that, because it's just like, in my opinion, privileged perspective that people can just hit 10K every day without knowing their job, their location, their family matters, whether they have kids or not. And that was like my biggest gripe. So I think it's like you said, it's finding small switches where you can just take someone from, instead of sitting down all day, doing a few steps now and here and then, instead of like, you know, go to the pub. Instead of driving, walk.
10,000 steps is a really good fitness gimmick. If you were to just go out and do it, you'd have 90 minutes or so to just go out and walk. And that's amazing if you've got it 100%. If you've got 90 minutes in a day to go out and walk, and you can do that on top of managing a family, working a job, commuting, going to the gym, or showing up for your community, eating. Amazing. It will probably positively contribute to your health.
Definitely help.
Is it realistic for most people? Probably not. For most people, if we say that 70% of Brits and Americans are overweight, and the average number of steps that people do in the West is about 4,000 a day, sometimes less.
Is that the average?
Yeah.
Interesting.
That if you want to get into fitness, one of the simplest things you can do is walk more steps on average each week.
Easy. And it's like, there's always substitutes you can make. So for me, for example, when I was like working at actually even now, I'm in a position now where realistically, if I wanted to walk that 10,000 steps a day, I could easily. I could do 20,000 if I wanted to, but I don't, because I can't bother. I don't find it enjoyable unless I've got a particular route to walk that I enjoy. Walking around mine, which I've seen a million times, isn't fun to me. And walking for the sake of walking isn't fun to me unless it's a planned walk. So for example, what I do outside of just the gym to get fitness in and to enjoy more of a cardiovascular side is I run a few times a week. And yeah, it's just giving you that outset. So if I'm a client and I'm someone who just doesn't want to do it, all right, cool. Let's just, what sort of thing do you like? What sort of activity do you like? And it's making plans around people rather than just having an approach you think works. And it probably does work, but like, most people just don't want to walk 10,000 steps a day. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, it is like probably 90 minutes or so if you're walking at a normal pace. Most people just don't want to do that.
Yeah,
that's fine.
I really appreciated how when I drove to yours, it's that we went for a walk straight away and caught up.
It's easier to, I think, like when you have but then doing that on your own, when you've been a million times, it's just boring. But when you have a purpose and when you're seeing someone, you can just chat for ages. It's great. And if people can find ways to incorporate that, if they have friends and stuff, it's the best thing you can do. And it's just easy exercise, isn't it?
Thing that I've just noticed here, to me, it is a gimmick. For maybe high-end athletes, it's not wearables and trackers. When I met you, you had an Aura ring.
Yeah.
And you're conspicuously not wearing that now. What's your take on trackers?
I think trackers have more of a benefit than a negative impact. But for someone like me, it was a real bad thing for the most part. And it depends who you are. Like for someone like me, I'm very obsessive over things. You know, I've always struggled with anxiety, especially health anxiety. So I think when I'm waking up and I'm looking at heart rate throughout the night, deep sleep, REM sleep, hours of sleep, it's a healthy obsession. And I actually find that I sleep much better now because I don't have that pressure on me.
Yep.
And I used to, you know, I'd wake up in the morning and I'd look at my stats straight away, and that would actually have an impact on me throughout the day. And I'd be tied to the numbers. And it might say, like, oh, it's total sleep 5 hours, like 47 minutes or whatever. And I'd be thinking about it throughout the day, and I'd be more tired, and I'd be less energetic because of that in my mind. And for someone like me who concentrates on that, it's a negative, but I think because it actually just increases pressure on that situation. But I do think that they have an impact in general. I think if you're a high-level athlete, they are things that are deeply important. But I think if you're just general someone who likes to keep fit and does stuff, they can actually be more of a nuisance than it's worth. So for me, I haven't worn one in 2 years, just because I see more benefit without. Numbers are a weird one, aren't they? Because I think you can get Same conversation coaches we've had about like scale weight, where you have to assess whether a client is going to become attached to that number or not. You know, you wouldn't coach a pro bodybuilder as you would a middle-aged mum wanting to lose weight. And obviously, I'm not saying via training, I'm saying via metrics and calculations. You don't need to track blood sugar every single day, blood pressure every single day of someone who's wanting to lose a bit of weight. But with bodybuilding, you might do because it's important. So I think for the everyday person, I think it's a necessity. I have a friend, right, who if they don't have their tracker on them when they do exercise, it doesn't count for them. And don't get me wrong, like when I'm running, I track my runs because I like to see differences, and that's perfectly fine. But when it comes to things like small things, just walking to the shop, if they don't have it on them in their head, steps don't count. And I almost think it's like a mental illness. Do you know what I mean? Because it is like teaching on that, where it's like
it's obsession, isn't it?
You're so obsessed with the statistics of it rather than the actual outcome of the doing.
And I think this ties nicely into a theme that's come up in quite a few conversations, that if you focus too much on a metric, on outscoring your opponent, on winning the gold medal, on something that is so small and very much at the end of the process, without enjoying the process, then you've kind of lost.
For sure. And it's with coaching, I think one thing I used to try and do a lot with clients, especially those who, were particularly overweight and wouldn't lose things overnight, is have small, mid-range, and then a large goal. You always want a goal with the client. You always want that thing they can realize or achieve at the end, like that huge thing. But then you want to set them pathways where they can keep enjoying it and be like, oh, just hit that one. If you have a client who's, 25 stone and they want to get down to 15 stone, it's helping them understand that that's not going to be a realistic achievement, but having little goals on the way so they continue enjoying the process and seeing the value of it. Rather than 7 weeks in and just being like, oh, I'm nowhere near losing 10 stone. You can't just focus on an end result. I think people who are obsessed with metrics, as I used to be, tie themselves to that.
Each episode of F&T takes about 10 hours to put together from start to finish. So if you could give me a second, maybe 2 seconds of your time to drop a like, subscribe, follow, and maybe even 5 seconds to leave a nice comment or a 5-star review, that would be incredible. I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode, and I'll see you in about 3 seconds.
We met seemingly at opposite ends of coaching careers, and it felt to me that you were looking for a kind of next step, or you were interested in something else.
Yeah.
And I could see the kernels of that something else when you asked me for like films. Like, it was one of the first kind of general chats that we had. You asked me what my top 5 was. And I think I really struggled with that, as most people would if they really thought about it.
I would now, yeah.
Yeah. But the follow-up question, I think this is when I knew that we were going to be friends. You said, how many films have you watched? And I was just like, oh, I don't know, maybe like 500. And then I asked you, and you said maybe about 1,000. And you said, do you track them? This is before letterbox conversations properly. I was just like, no, I've not tracked them.
Did I show you my spreadsheet?
And then you said, do you have a metric for each of your reviews?
Mental.
I can't remember what you were tracking it on, but I definitely did not have metrics for them.
I used to have but to be fair, before I met you, I had one of these, and I don't know why, because I'd always had an interest in film. I had, even though Letterboxd was a thing, I just didn't know about it. I had literally a Google sheet. Every film I'd watch, I just rate it and log it. It was really bizarre. But then it's Letterboxd, isn't it? It's just the same concept and idea. But yeah, I do remember that conversation now. It was an interesting one.
Did you know from your spreadsheet or from your interest in film at that point how you got into recording your reviews? What was the spark for you? Why did you start doing it?
I don't know. It's an interesting one, because I think I had not so much presence on social media, but I had a small following from the fitness thing, and I occasionally had to speak about films on the story and stuff, or with people, on there. And I think I realised that I don't actually have many friends, whether in person or online, who like film as I do. It's very minimal in terms of the amount. Well, then it was. So I think it was, and again, it's cliche, but it was more just to find more people. Because I distinctly remember the first video I recorded. I remember it so well. I said it to Anna. I'd been saying it for weeks, but I just hadn't committed to it. I think I recorded it was like a top 5 films of the 21st century, and I posted. I was really nervous. I never spoke about film in that context before. And even then, even though they talking videos on coaching, it was different. It was different portals, isn't it? And I woke up in the morning and I had like 20 followers. I was like, sick. Do you know? Because I was so enamored by the fact people would actually follow me to hear it. So at the start, it was literally more just a case of finding people to communicate with about film.
Yeah, I only knew 2 people that I could chat to films about. You became the second. And there's my mate Johnny from uni, who has completed TV series basically. And
he's completed it.
Every single TV series he's seen.
Crazy.
And he'll be able to put me on to new series, and I'd take his recommendations, like no pinch of salt needed. What he likes, I like. And I found that was pretty much the same with your takes on films. And if it wasn't, we'd have a good chat about it. And then for you to keep on going with it, I don't think I thought from you talking about films and telling me that you were going to talk about films, necessarily to have expected what came next.
Oh, I didn't.
Nah.
But I don't think anyone would they? Because seriously, it was just a case where I got into it to find more people. I thought, oh, if I get a few followers on the way, great. But I didn't think it would become a job. And no one does, and it shocked me. And I think I would have done it anyway.
Okay.
Regardless, I think for example, if I was still coaching actively and consistently now, I would have still done the film videos. I think because it is just something I enjoy doing. But I didn't expect to get anything from it on a financial, occupational level, because you just don't with personal social media. Even though that's a thing, it's not something I expected either. For sure.
I think something that has come up in a number of conversations is this idea of alignment and ikigai, this Japanese concept, and it's where different circles overlap. And film, you're obviously passionate about, and you enjoy putting these videos together. I saw you put a video together after we saw, was it Knock at the Cabin?
Yeah, we did, yeah.
So we saw that film, had a good night, and I think you put your video together like 15, 20 minutes. You did the takes, you did the zooms, you did everything in one go. I was properly impressed at how effective and efficient you were at putting this video together.
I didn't post it because it was in a barcode, remember?
You weren't allowed to post it, which
that was fun.
Absolutely fine. Based on, our invite, that was one of the stipulations. But it wasn't a chore for you to do that.
No.
And I was really impressed at how well you did it. So if we talk about passion, we talk about ability.
Just a reference on that, because back then, I remember exactly, it was January 2023, the event we went to. At that stage, when, you say that it was national, I wanted to get it out quickly and stuff. I had just taken on my first ad deal then, a month before. So I wasn't really earning any money from TikTok at that stage. So I think it was kind of obvious, just the fact that I just did it because I really enjoyed it. Because I wasn't getting anything from it, realistically, was there? Followers, a few, obviously, but not monetary benefits, I guess.
It was a treat for me to watch you do it, because you were just in your element. You knew exactly what you were going to talk about. You knew how it was going to look, and you kind of got your beats down, and then you were just like, okay, cool, can't post it now. You drafted it, lights out, we got up, went for breakfast, and then kind of went our ways from there. Talent, passion, demand. People are excited to engage with what you do, whether it's on Letterboxd, whether it's on TikTok. Instagram was kind of your third platform, wasn't it, from what I remember? Yeah,
and I think when I kind of realised it, because ridiculous, but I am someone who kind of really benefits off validation, because I feel like I need it sometimes when it comes to a new endeavour. And I think when I kind of realised that people actually kind of cared was when, this was the same night we went to Knock at the Cabin together. We went to a bar after and it had a tree inside.
Yes. And
2 people came up to me and recognised me. That was insane to me. Do you know what I mean? That's almost where I realised that people were bothered, because it's different, isn't it? I mean, you have people follow and they can hit follow, but for someone to kind of see you in person, I'm like, can I get a photo? I love your videos, whatever they say. Weird. Great, but weird, because it's just like that's where you kind of realise that, people actually do care a bit.
And it's not like it was an easy pub to be spotted in. It's off Wardour Street.
And it has a tree in the middle.
There are 2 of them. I thought you'd like it for the tree, for the kind of Hobbiton vibes.
It was very tree, but it was too busy.
Yeah, it was too busy.
But yeah, that's weird, because that was the same night. Very weird.
So kind of from that moment, you felt like this was a thing. This is...
Yeah, I mean, it's not the biggest thing in the world. It's such a treat to me that people care enough to come up to me and just have a chat about film. Do you know what I mean? It's just cool. Yeah. That's kind of what I wanted at the start, wasn't it? And I've met loads of friends through that, but also for someone who I don't know and they don't know me on a personal level, to just come up to me and be like, whatever, love your stuff. That's kind of, for me, a massive thing. I mean, for anyone, a massive thing, but it really was for me, because I just didn't expect it.
Yeah.
It's
properly social media, isn't it? That is what it should be about, what it could be about.
For sure. Yeah. That's the real positives. If you were to ask me the best thing about it, outside of the main things that are important, I think it really, really is just people caring about it. And even the ones who hate me. At least you hate me. At least I'm not just there. You know what I mean? At least you've got an opinion on me.
Yeah. Hated, adored, never ignored.
Yeah, exactly. All publicity is good publicity. Well, I don't actually agree with that.
No, I don't agree with that.
No, I think that's a moronic statement. But it just is the thing where it's at least someone has an opinion.
Yeah.
At least I'm there. I don't want to be left behind.
And the last bit of it is, it's always the last bit of it, and I've always respected you for that, is the financial bit of it. That you are in a position where you're maybe not working as many hours as you did in your marketing job or your coaching or...
Yeah, I think there's 2 ways you can look at it. I said this to you the other day, and I'll say it on the pod. At the moment, past few months, I felt unemployed in a sense, because I've always worked. As soon as I left school when I was 16, I worked. because in my head right now, I don't consider making videos working, even though it is primary income. But I probably work about 10 hours a week. So it's a case where it's almost having that idea and coming to terms with that, so to speak, since leaving my previous role. So financially, it's a position where, although it's good, it's also, I think people will wish for it when sometimes it can be kind of dull. Do you know what I mean? I think that's the wish for most people. I have this conversation with my fiance all the time, and she'll say, I wish I could just do nothing. But even though it's great and financially, it's in a position like you said, where, I am earning more than I used to. I don't have that social aspect as well. I think that comes into play. And I think one thing that is not as good with the social media world is in film space, is you kind of have to live in London is the only issue. Do you know what I mean? To be within the crowd and see people all the time.
Sure.
That's one thing. But I do agree. I think in terms of that alignment of the four, right now I'm probably coming quite close to it.
Of the people that I know, of the people that I regularly talk with, yeah, I think you are tapping at something that a lot of people aspire towards and maybe realize 3 of the 4, for instance. And even what you've described there, from the outside looking in, it seems that you've got 4 of the 4, but to you maybe there's an element of it that can still be worked on. Or
I think that might always be the case though. It was like when I used to speak to you about coaching, there always has to be something more in my head. And is that cliche of never been satisfied, which I think is a benefit I curse all the time. Because it's a benefit because it enables you to work harder and be able to try and achieve more. It's also a curse because it doesn't allow you to reflect on what you have done as much. But yeah, no, I do agree. I think if I was to look at it in a objective fashion, I'm probably in a position which a few people would want, which is something I'm very lucky about, I guess.
Sure.
That's the primary thing.
And seeing potential next steps and how your other interests are coming into it. You had a recent crossover with Sky Sports, which, my mates were excited about seeing you do that because the people you were interviewing are, regarded by many as cultural icons, maybe even national treasures. What was that experience like?
Weird. Well, it was funny because I think so I did it with 3 people who are creators in their own right, but even though they're creators, they thrive off being presenters and interviewers. Whereas that was my first major one, and that as a fan of football, interviewing people like Gary Neville, who I used to watch when I was 8 years old, lifting the Premier League, weird. And being in a room with him and being sat down with 20 people watching you, and a director and a million cameras, and I was like, oh God, this is scary. But it was fun. I think, I said this to you, I think it's almost it was a good dive in because you can't get much deeper than those people for me. There aren't many actors who would make me feel the way they did in terms of that kind of starstruck feeling, which does go, you always sit down and you're like, oh God, it's Jerry Carragher and Micah Richards and Gary Neville. 2 minutes later, you're talking to us yeah. It's just, you just having a conversation.
Yeah.
But it's just weird. And I think, but it did make me realize when I did it that I do want to do more of that. And I think, from what I've heard, Sky liked it as well, which is a good sign because it was my first major one. You always want to do well, don't you? You always want to. I think being with Sky, and they were really, really good to work with. They were all lovely and really friendly, really nice, and made it an environment for me that couldn't have been any better. So it was great. I enjoyed it. It's just kind of one of those. It's a good story to tell, isn't it?
Yeah. I think the moment, obviously it's clipped, so we don't know what the full 15-20 minutes is like.
I think they left out some good moments.
When they're talking about your tattoos, it's on your arm.
Yes.
And Micah goes, Aragorn.
Yeah.
It's such a crossover moment of geekiness, sport,
that was
film.
Perfect.
It was so good.
Yeah, he was. I mean, Micah was as people would. It's funny as well because I had so many questions. What were they like? What were they like off camera? Same. They were the same. They were genuinely. And I'll say this little story as well. When I sat down, before we were officially going, I got into my questions and stuff. Gary Neville especially was very interested in what I did and why I was there and stuff. And I just thought it was quite nice because I don't have to do that. I'm sure they get the same questions all the time. But he was like, what do you do? I did it. So, he was asking me to recommend him films and say which ones are good. And they were, and I think having those 3 because they are used to it. Whereas a lot of actors, they act. Whereas they're analysts and pundits and they get questions and they interviewed all the time. So they were quite into it. Yeah. So they made my job easier. And like you said, with the Lord of the Rings thing, I think that was a good little thing to have in there because Lord of the Rings, my favourite films of all time. And, my reaction was, I was surprised. And actually, so after that, when I went up to shake the hands and say bye, Micah Richards was like, oh, can you show me more? And I was going through some of my hand tattoos with him. And I said because Gary Neville asked me to recommend a film, I was like, you watch Lord of the Rings, they'll change your life. So I'm hoping to get that video as well because that'll be cool. But yeah, I think as a merger, I think they wanted someone who liked football, but also film, so they could format it like film questions. I think it went pretty well. And I would like to do it again, which is the ideal outcome.
Yeah.
You know, you actually do something, I'll do it again. Even though, I was shitting myself, but, you get it, aren't you? It's inevitable.
All right, crossover question back at you.
Mm-hmm.
Five-a-side football team. Movie heroes, movie characters. Could you do it?
No, I mean, I could try. Jeez. I mean, let's give people who are listening a clarification, Jack. I knew this question was going to be asked and I haven't thought of it once, which is my fault. It's a really good question, but I have no idea. We did mention some examples before, so I'm going to name them first. Samwise Gamgee from Lord of the Rings was my initial response. Not primarily because he's just my favourite character of all time, but also he has so many traits. I think it would work. It would be the loyalty, the vulnerability, being able to say how he feels, the tenacity as well. Yeah. He carries Frodo. He's the one who, like, everyone at the end of the film is like, oh, Frodo. No, it's Sam.
He carries the narrative, doesn't he?
And not metaphorically, he physically carries Frodo as well. He carries them without doing.
Yeah.
So
you don't want Frodo in your team, do you?
No, okay. Frodo gets too much hate. We like Frodo, but Sam's better.
Yeah.
So Sam, can I do 2 from the franchise?
Sure. So we said based on traits, based on values, rather than necessarily because they got superpowers. So we're excluding mutants, for instance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Spider-Man. Now, not because of his physical traits.
Okay.
This is.
Well, you're going down that loyalty thing again, aren't you?
I think it's the selflessness.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that really matters on the pitch because I think Spider-Man, nimble. Okay, wait, no, not physical traits, but it's selflessness.
So again, the traits, I see what you're saying.
He's a passer.
Yeah. So Peter Parker. Samwise.
Yeah. We'll chuck in. Let me get some like animal in there. Some like just purely.
Yeah. Shadowfax.
Some hyper masculine character who's gonna be there. Let me think. Okay. God, this is an interesting question. All right. I want a powerhouse. Have you seen the film Thief?
No.
Michael Mann. Okay. James Caan's character in Thief is a hyper masculine in a way. Hyper masculine, but also thoughtful. But he has the relentless traits. I'm not going to reveal the end of the film, but he's ruthless.
Okay.
But thoughtful,
yeah.
But ruthless. He'd work. He'd really work. I like him a lot. That's 3. Now, I do think Aragorn would be a good pick as well.
Oh, he's in mine.
I think he has to be.
Yeah.
I think he'd work. Yeah, I mean, it's just Aragorn. What are you going to say? I want to pick someone who's positionally based as well. I want to pick a goalkeeper. Anton Chigurh from No Control Man. He isn't letting anything past him mentally.
The one with the cattle prod, that guy.
The villain.
Yeah.
Yeah, who has the weird like shooter thing and who's got the deadest bowl cut you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because metaphorically, he will not allow himself to be beaten. Although he's kind of beaten at the end, but still wins because he walks away with the money. He still ends up on top. He won't allow things to go past him. He's too stubborn for it.
Nice.
That's my keeper.
Perfect.
I'll take it. I think I've done all right though.
I think you smashed it.
Yeah, it was a really hard question because it's physical traits. You just like Shrek in there, like Superman up front because but it's a bit more difficult when you think like virtues and personality ideas.
Yeah, you were going for the chemistry in there.
Yeah, I think they did all right. They'd work. They'd merge.
What do you think film narratives get right about sport, get right about fitness, and where do they typically go wrong? So one film that I put out as an example was Love Lies Bleeding, and we both liked the depiction of body dysmorphia in that, and this kind of obsession that Katie O'Brien's character has with jumping on gear in order to look a certain way. But what the film goes on to explore is it is supposed to be comical. I don't think you're supposed to take it too seriously, but I think the metaphor and the feelings that you and I could relate to that as people who are interested in bodybuilding as a sport, as a way of life, I thought that was a really good depiction of fitness, and I think it did a lot of things really well.
I think it's tough because I think I actually think in general a lot of sports movies are bad.
Okay.
I just think a lot of sports movies are bad. I think when it comes to a mentality aspect, now it's all going to depend on taste all the time. But I think a lot of sports movies lack a certain nuance that you should have when portraying the desperation to hit a certain goal. Like Katie O'Brien in bodybuilding, which I think is actually quite a nuanced film and really well made. And when it comes to looking at body dysmorphia, which isn't something that's tackled particularly, it was actually really well done. Now, I think a lot of films strive for that, but end up being quite shallow in nature as well. So it's almost kind of what you favour. I'm trying to think of like good sports movies that I think have really hit the mark for me in terms of like the fitness side and that ruthlessness. I actually think on a mentality aspect, even though it's quite formulaic narrative, I think Warrior's really good.
Warrior's great. I think it's really underrated. Tom Hardy film.
Tom Hardy, Joel Edgerton. Yeah, it's something that I think, especially with Tom Hardy's character and having the juxtaposition of the two lives and kind of where they're at. If you remember, Joel Edgerton's like...
We should spoil it, I think, for the purpose of this conversation.
Okay.
So they're brothers, aren't they?
Brothers, have a dad who's like a kind of heavily emotionally burdened alcoholic they don't really see anymore. They've kind of both gone their separate ways. They haven't seen each other. They haven't seen their dad. One brother, Tom Hardy, goes back and sees their dad. Then he kind of is... He's almost like that lone wolf, that typical, archetypal character. He starts boxing / MMA training just to release testosterone, I guess, And then there's also Joel Edgerton, who is in a position where, if I remember correctly, he's still fighting in like low-end, regional, illegal shows. But he also has a wife, kids, I think, and it's like a nice...
He's got a family.
He's in an environment. So it really shows the juxtaposition between the two. Basically, the film goes on to depict it's like a big MMA tournament that kind of happens. And they both enter. And it's the desperation of coming out on top against someone who, in Tom Hardy's sake, he envied. Well, I mean, they envy each other, but in separate ways. And I think that's a good depiction of that real obsession that athletes have. And I mean, cliche, but spoiler, they go on to fight each other. And it's a really like crying moment, when they walk off. I think that's a good one. But I just think there aren't many, especially in like the bodybuilding world specifically. There was one that came out recently called Magazine Dreams.
Okay, I'm not seeing that.
I haven't seen it, but apparently that's quite good in bodybuilding. And there's also one that I'm actually really intrigued about as well, the new one with Dwayne Johnson in, The Smashing Machine.
Smashing Machine I'm excited about.
Yeah, because I know Mark Kerr's story.
Which I don't.
Which you don't. I think it's better not knowing. And I think that one could be really, really good on really portraying that obsession and going with it and studying that long-lasting note of it as well.
Subtext to that, and I think you'll be aware of it in a way that maybe people I watch films with aren't, is that The Rock has had a no-loss clause in some of his contracts. Have you seen this? And so I think it started with the Fast and Furious films, where his contract stipulated that he couldn't lose in fights, I think particularly with Vin Diesel.
Yeah, that's why they fell out on set.
Yeah.
The Rock has been, I've said this many times, he's basically just been a toy to merchandise the latest product. He is, The Rock as an entity is like a propaganda item for franchises. And The Smashing Machine is so interesting because it's going to be a down on his little character quite a lot. And not to be a film star, but it's a real role for him, which he hasn't taken many of, let's be honest. He has been that pawn for just franchises and milking them. So it's going to be interesting. And yeah, the no-loss thing is very odd. It's very weird. It's very him.
It's why all of his films look the same and aren't interesting. There's no stakes.
There's nothing. Yeah. I mean, and also I don't think he particularly cares about many of the roles he's had. But I think The Smashing Machine, I've said this before, I think he'll get an Oscar nomination for it. I regardless of how good you think he is, I think that's guaranteed.
Because of Micah?
No. Well, a few things. A biopic, sports biopic. It tends to do well, traditionally speaking. B, it's The Rock's story behind it. It's the comeback story. It's the redemption of The Rock as a real actor. C, this role is manufactured for him to play. He's got the athleticism. He's got the charisma, whether you like it or not. He's a very marketable person. And I also think strategically in the role he plays, knowing about Mark Kerr and also knowing the size of him, the look of him, it works well. So I think those three, whether he's amazing or not, will merge into him getting plaudits for it. Because I think it's just a really well manufactured role for him to take, to give him that story of The Rock's a real actor, but also something he can actually be really good at, and I think he will. Make sense?
No, I'm excited by your excitement. I'm excited about it anyway.
I'm intrigued about it.
Yeah.
Different. But yeah, I think it was good.
On the point of what would you do to win, there's a film coming out called Him.
Yes.
Which looks like it's going to be like head-on tackling that as a
yes, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of films that tackle... the trailer for that's really good, by the way.
It's
really
class. Visceral, isn't it?
Yeah, really visceral. Gets you on the edge of your seat type of stuff. I'm really excited for it. So there's a lot of films I think that tackle obsession in a way, not particularly with sport. Like when you look at the likes of Perfect Blue or Whiplash was really good at it. The Substance, for example. It's a film where I think Him will be the same thing, where it has no interest in subtlety. The metaphor's there. You could see it from the trailer for Him, but it's so visceral and head-on. I think it'll work. In my opinion, that's what works well about Substance. Even though a lot of people didn't like it, which is fair enough because it's one of those films. It's very Marmite. But yeah, Him looks interesting. I think it will really, like you said, head-on tackle that obsession. What will you do to get there? But in a mantra that is very horrifying. Hopefully, because the trailer's good.
Black Swan as a what would you do to
Perfect
be
Blue.
the best?
Black Swan copied everything. Perfect Blue did well.
So when did Perfect Blue come out?
97.
Okay, so I'm not aware of it.
Oh, okay, here we go. So Darren Aronofsky, it's a really difficult name. Aronofsky
Yeah.
copied everything Perfect Blue did.
Right.
Black Swan is Perfect Blue. Although, and again, I will say, I actually really like Black Swan as well. I think Perfect Blue is a masterpiece. I think everyone should watch it on Obsession and Identity. I think it's genius. And getting to the top of that rise of fame. Another example, female-led, one of the best films of all time in terms of that obsession to get to the top and doing what it takes, but being dragged down by the dirty underworld, Mulholland Drive.
They're not sports films.
No,
but they are narratives about obsession.
And they go kind of hand in hand. Because it's like, there is a very thin line between that, you know, being in Hollywood and wanting to get to the very top, or being an artist and wanting to get to the very top. Being an artist in any form, and then being a boxer, being a footballer. Mentally, it can very much take the same toll due to everything, the surroundings, the corruption, whatever. So I think they kind of go hand in hand.
What are you most excited about when it comes to cinema, when it comes to films going into back into this year?
I mean, there's a lot of great directors releasing who I love. Paul Thomas Anderson, his next film's coming out next in like 2 weeks, actually.
Okay.
It's Paul Thomas Anderson. I don't think he's ever made a bad film, or nearly. I think as a creative, Avatar 3 is coming out, and whether you are enamored by the projects or not, they are an entity that kind of defies everything in terms of marketing, advertising, digitally, like the way they're structured, visually. They're like the biggest, you know, extravaganza ever. And so it's an event when an Avatar film comes out. And I like the Avatar films. I really like the last one, actually, but it's an event. And it's James Cameron is doing something that hasn't been done before. So that's always good. And then I think, you know, there's a number of directors. Like Nolan's coming out with a new film. I think looks terrific with The Odyssey.
Cinemas are already booked.
Crazy. Well, yeah. I mean, they like pre-released a bunch of tickets, and I you know,
obviously
I love consumerism, so I was like, that straight away.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Like they sold that instantly. Crazy. But I mean, it's a marketing gimmick, more buttercup. Like, I saw people like were saying like, oh, I didn't get one. We'll see it opening day. You will. They want to be 2 showings a day. But I did get 70mm. I don't think you'll get any of them. I got the Science Museum in London, 70mm. So I don't actually think they'll do another screen that day, which is cool.
Okay.
But yeah, like again with Nolan, he has kind of bridged the gap between cinephile and gen pop. So it's an event when he comes out. There's also a bunch of little things. Like I think Julia Ducournau, I think one of the best female directors working today. She directed 2 of the best coming of age body horrors ever made, as far as I'm concerned, with Raw and Titan. Titan being one of my favorite films of all time in 2021. She's out with the film in 2 months called Alpha, which premiered at Cannes and got incredibly polarized reviews, which does nothing but excite me. But I do think, in the context of this year, I don't think this year's been, from what I've seen, quite as strong as previous at this point. But there's a number of things to be excited for.
I have really enjoyed this, and obviously I am lucky to get your takes on films with just a text or a voice note. But if other people want to catch your reviews, your takes, where should they go, Seth?
I mean, my username on Instagram and TikTok is just Seth's Film Reviews. I hate that name. Every time I say it, I'm like, that's just terrible. And then on Letterboxd, which is the most important one, it's just Seth's Reviews podcast, real talk podcast. If you want to hear me yap about films as well, 3 times a week, yap a lot. So that's always a good place to catch us also.
Perfect.
Very weird sitting like this though.
What would you do differently?
I would have a across from each other.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I've got quite a bad back and I like to sit. But also, I don't know if that would work as much if we were just...
Be like we're driving a car.
God, that'd be weird, wouldn't it? Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Cheers, love.